That's Blondie with Hanging on the Telephone, and we've been hanging on the telephone. We've now got him. It's Markus Birdman on the line. Thank you very much for talking to Drystone Radio, Markus.
Hello, sorry about that.
It's all good. How have you had a good day? Have you been enjoying the sun?
Do you know what? I've just literally got out of the sea, deliberately, I must confess. Which, was nice. I live right by the sea, so I took advantage of that and went for a swim, so that's great.
Oh, yeah, lovely. Yeah. My journey of today was slightly less exotic. I was paddling through the River Aire and all the mud baths and stuff with my friend and her child. So I'd have much preferred to go for a dip in the sea, personally. Yeah, well, it's not that glamorous. It is Essex. It's not exactly Club Tropicana. No.
But it is, actually it is quite Club Tropicana, but without the swimming pool. It's still the sea, and that's still very pleasant. Yeah. So it's good. Yeah, enjoying the sun.
Fantastic.
Incredible.
Well, I'm going to a festival this weekend, so I'm slightly concerned that the weather's going to be changing up north. But we'll have to just make the most out of it, I suppose.
Yeah. Which festival are you going to?
It's called Beat Herder Festival. So it's like a music kind of ravey dance festival. So that should be fun.
Oh, right. Great, nice.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, we're here to talk about your show for the Edinburgh Fringe. I've got some great reviews for you. I've seen you personally, and I know you're a fantastic act to watch. The Fringe is such a huge experience. I mean, how do you kind of prepare and get ready for the month of just kind of day after day shows?
Try not to drink too much, in full expectation that you're going to when you get there. Preview, obviously, to sort of actually preview the show, try and get it up to sort of speed and find out bits that aren't kind of working. It's very difficult to know, you know. I mean, I think if I knew the full answer to that, I'd be doing it better. But you have to kind of take potluck, and some years your shows really come together. Sort of, some years they come together less, or you think the show's not as good and it gets received better. So it's kind of weird and random, and I never really understand how it works. Nor does anyone else. But I don't know. I try and write a show that was sort of pretty much about last year. You know, what's happened to me last year, and try and make it as funny as possible, and hope for the best, really, you know.
Because that is a really great thing about your style, because I mean, my favourite type of comedy is the comedy that I can sit and relate to as an audience member. So you talk about your life story in the good and the bad of it all, but at the end of it, you know, the audience feel very uplifted, and I know a lot of reviewers have said that, and you know, I can kind of feel that as well. When you're doing your show and you're kind of talking about your own life, do you ever kind of get kind of in the moment of what you're talking about and think, oh God, this was horrible, or is it just kind of you've got it so well kind of rehearsed that you're kind of detached from it?
Yeah, I'm already in the bar. No, I know what you mean. I think I don't think it's a good question. No, I don't think I think I do abstract myself from it a little and trying to get into the performance of it. And I don't sort of, I know what you mean. I've had moments, because you know, as you've said, there's moments where, you know, I do, hopefully anyway, reveal myself. Not in that way, but you know, kind of reveal my, you know, fears and hopes and aspirations and losses and what have you. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I think, I don't know, you know, there's that sort of slightly faux James Brown thing that you get helped off stage, and I just sort of, I find that awful, really, you know. And I've seen a few acts do it, where I think they've conjured up sort of a tear in the eye, and I just find it really mawkish and unpleasant. And I'm not saying that, you know, maybe that's unfair on them. I haven't had those moments where I've sort of broke down because I'm retelling a particular bit. It might be because I'm just sort of in the performance of it rather than actually living the actual moment. Maybe that's a self-preservation thing. Maybe I've abstracted it. Maybe I'm just a cold-hearted comedy killer, cynically wringing out my life for your benefit. You know. I don't know. Probably all of those is true.
Because the reason why I asked that question was I saw Sarah Millican's Homebird the Fringe last year, and I felt there was a moment in the set where she was talking about the divorce, and I actually felt like she was going to burst into tears, and but I mean, she saved it with a big punchy joke at the end, but it was just a bit like, oh God, you know, what's happening here? It seemed a bit like not uncomfortable, but it was something where it was strange, because it felt like you were really finding out about what it's like when she's not off on stage.
No, it was good. was a good show, that, wasn't it?
That was fantastic.
Particularly in that small environment, which you're never going to see her in normally. So, I mean, yeah, and not dissimilar to my last year's show in terms of theme, as Sarah and I had discussed on many occasions. But I think it's really nice to use something like Edinburgh as the position, a place where the arena where you can. You don't have to get a laugh all the time. You don't have to sort of fend down drunk people with a joke every 15 seconds and be a bit more honest and open and bare. And I think you get it right, people do respond to it, and I think that's just definitely something that I'm trying to do. I think so often comedy, if I can be very general, I think it's about what you think. It's people kind of about deconstructing sort of the norms of sort of society or phrases or things that we take for granted and sort of looking at them in a very intellectual way. I think, and I find often it's very. It's not very often. Blimey, I can speak. This is how great I am on stage. Yeah, I think it's not very often about how you feel. And that often is the sort of arena of music, which is kind of what you feel and less about what you think, And I am trying to do that, really, like to make it more about my emotional landscape and my sort of response to it, really.
Let's talk about the show. To Be or Not to Be is the title of it, with a very deliberate spelling, I feel, of the first to be. With, as in a letter and with the number in the letter, and the write-up is that when it starts off by saying that your dad made you like draw Bible pictures. Just tell us about how it all kind of came about, the show and the title as well. It's very interesting, kind of Shakespearean reference.
Absolutely, Hamlet's. You culture vulture, you. I think everyone knows that. But I hope they do. I quite like the pun on the 2B. Obviously, is a 2B pencil, which refers to what you were saying, and that particular kind of Hamlet speech is kind of all about, whether you should commit suicide. Would it be easier to do that than just try and kind of hang on in this grim life type thing? And I think so. I mean, that sounds hilarious, doesn't it? But I sort of think that I kind of say that speech is kind of about love and loss and death and sort of, and it occurred to me that's kind of what all my shows are about, really, over the last wee while, and I felt that was kind of, I quite liked the idea that's what the theme of this show is again, but that I could have that sort of pun on the to be as a pencil, which, as you mentioned, I sort of started drawing because my dad was a vicar, and he sort of made me sort of draw Bible, parables and the sort of stories from the Bible, and as a way to kind of learn them, I suppose. And I kind of obviously I really enjoyed doing them, and got sort of, he encouraged me to do it, and so it's kind of, as I joke in the show, that's kind of his fault that I'm now using that scurrilous and blasphemous use. Yeah.
Did you ever parody the Bible pictures?
I have done. I have done. I haven't for this show. Well, I haven't parodied any parables for the show. I have parodied the church, but I think certainly I've done that in the past and sort of, put stuff on Facebook and what have you. But I think that's certainly something that I would like to do in the future. I'm hoping that this is a sort of, I'm changing direction this year in that there's way more artwork. I mean, previously I had artwork in as a backdrop, which I'd done for the last shows, but it wasn't really intrinsic to the show. It added sort of mood, as far I hope. But I wasn't really referring to it, whereas this year I'm much more referring to it. I've got a sort of overhead projector, or a sort of Heath Robinson overhead projector, with illustrations and stories and books that I've made up, kind of like almost like kind of there's a specific one, like kind of like an alternative Cinderella story, sort of fearing that my daughter will grow up with this idea of love being a fairy tale, and the reality of it is, of course, quite different from that. And I've made up a kind of alternate sensitive fairy.
Disney has a lot to answer for, doesn't he?
Indeed he does. Yeah, indeed he does. So they're actual books, that I've made up and drawn and illustrated and read from. So it's much more reference to the visuals. So that's a sort of a new venture for me, and I kind of previews have gone really well, and response has been really good to that. And the people who've just sort of seen the illustrations but not actually seen the show have really responded well to that. So I'm hoping that's a kind of...
It's going to melt together.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's going to melt together and not just be an absolute mess.
I think when I saw you last year, I think you kind of referenced it at the end, like you kind of said, by the way, I drew this, and everyone was like, oh wow, like kind of it seemed like a kind of, so it is nice that you're kind of bringing it into the actual show, because it's nice to kind of bring different talents in and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I kind of think I went to art college, and I worked on my last job was work for a sculptor, so I have that background, and then I abandoned that really to be full steam ahead with stand-up, which is what it needed to sort of master those, not master because that's like I've mastered them, but like to really get to grips with stand-up, it took all my time and attention. But after sort of doing that for over a decade, I felt, it's like, started doing bits and bobs of drawing again, and was sort of enjoyed that as another outlet and another kind of modus operandi, and people responded to it, and people responded to the backdrops and sort of encouraged me to kind of, you should really do more with this. And I've toyed with it over various bits and haven't really managed to figure out how I could do it, really. Just practical things like having it back to the audience, if you're sort of referencing something or drawing something live on stage or making stuff big enough for people to see. But it's obviously, so I didn't want to just do a kind of PowerPoint presentation with this stuff I've done. So I've been trying to figure out a way of making it a bit more kind of
interactive, or
a bit more interactive. So which I've done. I'm not drawing live on stage, but although that's something that I would really like to work up to. But I've got the kind of books and the illustrations that I've got are kind of like they're kind of pop-up stuff, and like kind of kids, like when you pull out a little lever and it reveals stuff.
Oh, wow.
So they do. There is a certain amount of kind of kinetic movement that makes them. It's not just a PowerPoint presentation, and the way I present them is through a kind of camcorder rather than like a kind of, as I say, like a projector. Well, it is through a projector, but it's linked up so you can see my hands turning the pages and stuff.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I'm working them. So I think that kind of that gives it a sort of lo-fi charm. This is what I'm hoping. That's what I've been told. You're
going to be at the Stand. You're at Stand Comedy Club 5.
Yeah.
And your show's on at 9:15.
Right. Yep,
starting on the 31st of July. Fantastic. And people can get tickets off the Edinburgh Fringe website.
Yes, indeed.
Or in the box office.
Right. Yeah, and at the Stand, various box offices around the city and the Stand itself. Yes.
Fantastic. Well, Markus, thank you very much for talking to us, and we look forward to seeing To Be the Pencil or Not To Be.
Great. Are you coming up? Are you there? Or?
I definitely am. I'll be there between in the middle for a week.
Graham, we'll come and say hello.
Well, I certainly will do. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I couldn't find any Hamlet or pencil-related songs, so I went with Dire Straits and Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, very nice. That's actually a good era of, it's the only era of Dire Straits I can tolerate. That's actually a very beautiful song, isn't it? Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Markus.
All right, bye-bye. Cheers,
Take care.